Magdalene, renowned for his resurrection from the dead at the command of our Lord, who considered Lazarus a beloved friend. After the resurrection of Christ, Lazarus and his sisters, like their fellow Christians, became targets of the high priests and the Pharisees, who searched for a legal way to dispose of the three siblings. Frustrated, the Pharisees finally settled for casting the three saints adrift in an old, decrepit boat without oars or sails, hoping that the seas would complete their demise. Yet the grace of God instead carried the vessel across the Mediterranean to what is now the port of Marseille in France. The apparently miraculous arrival of the three saints aided the swift conversion of the pagans residing there, and Lazarus, having been made a bishop by the apostles, established his see where they had landed. Mary Magdalene departed to do penance alone in the wilderness, and Martha led an early congregation of women in a contemplative life. Lazarus led his diocese with great zeal and vigor until his death, which some accounts say was a holy martyrdom by decapitation at the hands of the Romans. Also honored on this day are St. John of Matha in the modern calendar, St. Sturmius, and many other martyrs, confessors, and holy virgins. For more about the saints and seasons of the Catholic Church, visit thestationofthecross.com/saints and seasons.
Never, ever get discouraged because of past failings, but to renew our commitment to our Lord today, serve Him with greater fidelity, zeal, generosity, to put into practice our good resolutions, that perhaps made before but haven't kept yet. Good, worthy resolutions, not just avoiding sin, but to practice a particular virtue we need most: humility, patience, charity, mercy. So let us be mindful of this important truth, that time is so short, and our Lord is coming for us, and it could be any moment. And in the meanwhile, do what St. Francis advises. Brethren, while we have time, let us do good.
That's Sermons for Everyday Living from 6 to 7 a.m. Eastern on the Station of the Cross.
This is Joe McLean, and you're listening to the Station of the Cross, proclaiming the fullness of the truth with clarity and charity.
Heard around the world on your Android and Apple mobile devices.
Go into the world and tell every man that you meet, there is a man on the cross.
A Catholic Take. What you need to know right now. A bold synthesis of inspiration and information. Keeping you up to date on the news and issues from a courageous Catholic perspective.
A Catholic Take with Joe McLean starts now.
Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McLean. So good to be on with you. Praise be to God. Hey, let's talk about goodness in the age of wickedness. There's that movie Wicked that's come out. Bad guys are all of a sudden good guys. We want to humanize them, right? We want to give them a story arc so you can relate to them, right? Make them more human. Well, I want to share with you an article over at firstthings.com. Make villains wicked again. Yay and amen. I think it's inherently bad media, but unfortunately it's very popular. It's going gangbusters. I think it's the most popular, most financially productive musical in modern times. And we're going to have a conversation around that at 14 past the hour. But let's also talk about goodness in the age of wickedness. Latinmass.com, or Mass of the Ages, has some new projects they're rolling out. Praise be to God. And I'm going to have their CEO on the team, Tony Schreiner, to talk about those new projects, discovering tradition and the lives of the saints. So we're going to get the latest from Mass of the Ages at 30 past the hour. So there's lots of stories that we're going to be sharing with you in the links in the show notes over at thestationofthecross.com/ACT. I'm starting to feel a wee bit under the weather as well. So pray for me that I can get through it or keep my voice for the rest of the week and still stay after it. Plus, we got the Bible study Wednesday night, tomorrow night, and so much more. So it's going to be an interesting week. And Jake is still out, but our good friend Mike Patino is in the in the studio today, pitching in and helping out. So we got a lot to get to today. We would appreciate your prayers, but let's begin. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Amen. Remember, O most gracious Virgin Mary, that never was it known that anyone who fled to thy protection, implored thy help, or sought thine intercession was left unaided. Inspired by this confidence, I fly unto thee, O Virgin of Virgins, my mother. To thee do I come, before thee I stand sinful and sorrowful. O Mother of the Word incarnate, despise not my petitions, but in thy mercy hear and answer me. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, and now your saint of the day.
Saint Lazarus. Lazarus was the brother of Saint Martha and Mary Magdalene, renowned for his resurrection from the dead at the command of our Lord, who considered Lazarus a beloved friend. After the resurrection of Christ, Lazarus and his sister, like their fellow Christians, became targets of the high priests and the Pharisees, who searched for a legal way to dispose of the three siblings. Frustrated, the Pharisees finally settled for casting the three saints adrift in an old decrepit boat with oars and sails, hoping that the seas would complete their demise. Yet the grace of God instead carried the vessel across the Mediterranean to what is now the port of Marseille in France. The apparently miraculous arrival of the three saints aided the swift conversion of the pagans residing there, and Lazarus, having been made bishop by the apostles, established a see where they had landed. Mary Magdalene departed to do penance alone in the wilderness, and Martha led an early congregation of women into contemplative life. Lazarus led his diocese with great zeal and vigor until his death, which some accounts say was a holy martyrdom by decapitation at the hands of the Romans. For more about this and others in the church calendar, visit the stationsofthecross.com/saints and seasons. Saint Lazarus, pray for us.
And now your headline news. The Hill reports appeals judge reverses retirement plans after Trump election. Judge James Wynn, an appointee of former President Obama on the 4th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, has reversed his decision to retire from active service on the bench, blocking President-elect Trump from seating his successor. Wynn's decision came after North Carolina Solicitor General Ryan Park, Biden's intended replacement for the seat, withdrew his nomination. The withdrawal followed Park's being denied floor votes under a Senate agreement established to let Biden's remaining district court nominees advance without stalling tactics by Republicans. The New York Post is reporting the prisoner that CNN helped to free from a Syrian prison was actually a notorious Assad regime torturer. CNN went viral last week with footage of the startled prisoner being led from the prison by journalist Clarissa Ward. Fact checkers are saying that the seemingly innocent prisoner was actually Salama Mohammed Salama, a first lieutenant in the Syrian Air Force intelligence with a long history of alleged war crimes. He gave his name as Adel Grubel and claimed to have been arrested by government authorities 3 months earlier, and said he had no idea that the Assad regime had collapsed. Known as Abu Hamza, Salama worked at several security checkpoints in Homs and was involved in theft, extortion, coercing residents into becoming informants for Assad, and even murder. Locals claim that he was locked up in the prison, where he was discovered for less than a month due to a dispute with a high-ranking officer over sharing some of that extorted money. And Ground News reports judge rules Trump does not have immunity. Judge Juan Merchant ruled that Donald Trump does not have immunity from his hush money conviction in New York. Trump's legal team plans to appeal the ruling. The case has received significant media attention, with legal experts analyzing the implications. And those are your headline news. The gospel today comes to us from Matthew chapter 1, verses 1 through 17. The book of the genealogy of Jesus. The book of the generation of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. And Abraham begot Isaac, and Isaac begot Jacob, and Jacob begot Judas and his brethren. And Judas begot Phares, and Zerah of Thamar. And Phares begot Esron, and Esron begot Aram, and Aram begot Aminadab, and Aminadab begot Nason, and Nason begot Solomon. And Solomon begot Booz of Rahab. And Booz begot Obed of Ruth. And Obed begot Jesse. And Jesse begot David the king. And David the king begot Solomon of her that had been the wife of Urias. And Solomon begot Rehoboam, and Rehoboam begot Abiah, and Abiah begot Asa. And Asa begot Jehoshaphat, and Jehoshaphat begot Joram. And Joram begot Ozias, and Ozias begot Jotham, and Jotham begot Ashaz. Ashaz begot Ezekias, and Ezekias begot Manasseh, and Manasseh begot Ammon, and Ammon begot Josias, and Josias begot Jeconias, and his brethren in the transmigration of Babylon. And after the transmigration of Babylon, Jeconias begot Zelethiel. Zelethiel begot Zerubbabel. And Zerubbabel begot Abiud. And Abiud begot Eliakim. And Eliakim begot Azor. And Azor begot Sadak. And Sadak begot Achim. And Achim begot Eliud. And Eliud begot Eleazar. And Eleazar begot Mathan. And Mathan begot Jacob. And Jacob begot Joseph, the husband of Mary, of whom was born Jesus, who is called Christ. So all the generations from Abraham to David are 14 generations. And from David to the transmigration of Babylon are 14 generations. And from the transmigration of Babylon to Christ are 14 generations. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. The Ignatius Catholic Commentary today would say the opening words recall the Greek Old Testament in Genesis 2:4 and 5:1, Christ, a title, Christos, meaning the anointed one. It is the Greek rendering of the Old Testament word for Messiah. According to Luke 4:18 and 19, Jesus is anointed by the Holy Ghost. It is this title for Jesus that Matthew elucidates throughout his gospel. The Abrahamic and Davidic ancestry of Jesus establishes his credentials to be the royal Messiah of Israel. God long ago promised that kings would stem from Abraham's line, Genesis 17:6, and later swore a covenant oath that David would always have a dynastic heir, something we've covered extensively in our weekly Bible study series. If you want to get in on that, you got to be on the email list at thestationofthecross.com/ACT. The inclusion of women, Tamar, Rahab, Ruth, and the wife of Uriah in a Jewish genealogy is unusual but not unprecedented. 1 Chronicles 1:32, verse 39, verse 50, chapter 2, verse 4, etc. All are Gentiles, Canaanite, Moabite, and Hittite, respectively. And 3, all but Ruth, are associated with sexual immorality. These irregularities may reflect an apologetic strategy. 1, Gentile blood within Jesus' lineage anticipates the international scope of the gospel for men and women of all nations. Number 2, Matthew diffuses Jewish accusations that the women in Jesus' genealogy undermine his messianic credentials. By listing the immoral women in the generations before Solomon, Matthew implies that if these women did not disqualify Solomon as the royal son of David, then neither do they disqualify Jesus, who assumes the same title as Messiah. Matthew divides the genealogy into 3 units of 14. It is not exhaustive since several Old Testament names are omitted and the divisions cover unequal periods of time. Matthew stresses the number 14 to show that Jesus, as the new Davidic king, 1, David and Jesus are the only names listed with their respective titles. 2, David is the 14th name on the list. The numerical, and point number 3, the numerical value of David's name equals 14. So what is Matthew saying? 14, 14, 14. Jesus is the son of David. He has fulfilled the promise that there will always be a son of David on the throne forever. Only this one is also the Son of God. He is truly the Messiah. Let there be no doubt. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. More to come.
This Christmas, we celebrate the greatest gift ever given, Jesus Christ, our Savior. Let his love inspire you to reach out to those near and far. What better way to do this than through iCatholic Mobile, the only Catholic mobile phone company where every call, text, and message helps support the mission of the Station of the Cross. Learn more at iCatholicMobile.com. iCatholic Mobile underwrites with the Station of the Cross.
Download the app to take our programming with you wherever you go. Hear what listeners are saying about the regularly updated iCatholic Radio app.
The programs on iCatholic Radio are uplifting, educational, and have served to deepen my faith as a Catholic. Thank you for this amazing station.
Download the free iCatholic Radio app in your Android or Apple store today. If you already have the app, please consider giving us a 5-star review or telling a friend about it.
Please join us in a prayer to our guardian angel. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. O holy guardian angel, take care of our soul and body. Enlighten our mind that we may know the Lord better and love him with all our heart. Help us in our prayers so that we may not give in to distractions. Assist us with your advice so that we may see the good and carry it out with generosity. Defend us from the insidious snares of the enemy and sustain us in temptations, that we may always be victorious. Remedy our coldness in our worship of the Lord. Cease not to protect us until you have brought us into paradise, where we will praise our good God together for all eternity. Amen.
Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McClain. It is so good to be on with you. Praise be to God. Hey, coming up at 30 past the hour, Mass of the Ages has some new projects that they are announcing. Some interesting film projects. Discovered Tradition. Discover the Lives of the Saints. We've invited the CEO of the Mass of the Ages, Tony Schreiner, to be on the team today. And he's going to come here at 30 past the hour to give us the updates. What's on the agenda? What are they trying to accomplish and how will they get there? All of that and more. Goodness in the Age of Wickedness coming up at 30 past the hour. But there are lots of stories in the news that are of great concern to me, and I'm sure they are to you as well. And of course, recently we saw that this movie Wicked was released, where it turns the world upside down. The good guys are the bad guys, and the bad guys are the good guys. Isn't it interesting? We want to humanize the villains so we can relate to them better, I guess, because the world is gray, you know. Interesting. I want to read this article over at firstthings.com. Make Villains Wicked Again to you by Jermaine Saucedo. And I'll put a link to it for you in the show notes over at thestationofthecross.com/ACT, because I think there's much for us to think about and ponder today. You'll have to excuse my voice. I'm getting sick, so my voice is a little bit hoarse and raspy. I'll try to do my best to be as clear as I can. Make Villains Wicked Again. It says, in recent years, Hollywood has produced movies that cast once irredeemable villains such as Maleficent, Cruella de Vil, and the Joker in a sympathetic light. The 2003 Broadway musical Wicked, adapted from the 1995 novel, was ahead of the curve in that regard. In this retelling of The Wizard of Oz, the Wicked Witch of the West, or Elphaba, is no evil villain but a misunderstood victim. Last month, the first part of the musical's cinematic adaptation hit theaters to critical and box office success. It is now the highest grossing musical adaptation ever. This bodes well for Hollywood, which is sure to capitalize on the film's success and fans of the sympathetic villain genre. However, it does not bode well for our culture. Hollywood's tendency to subvert classic villains, and as a consequence, classic heroes, usually in response to the latest progressive agenda, indicates a lack of social moral clarity, which is sure to have consequences. Wicked starts in media res. After the Wicked Witch of the West's supposed demise at the hands of Dorothy, The people of Munchkinland cheer and celebrate the good news given by Glinda the Good. During the celebration, a little girl asks Glinda, "Why does wickedness happen?" "That's a good question," she replies. "Are people born wicked, or do they have wickedness thrust upon them?" Cue the flashback. In many ways, Elphaba fits into a recent archetype of the contemporary female hero, the unappreciated girl who reads. Smart, naturally gifted, righteous, she is the type of girl who takes pride in correcting people's grammar and speaking up for the downtrodden. In this case, Oz's talking animals, the film's catch-all representation of marginalized peoples. But because of the color of her skin, bright green, a mystery since birth, and her volatile magic, she is ostracized. Her virtue goes unrecognized. Through a series of haphazard events, Elphaba is offered the opportunity to attend Shiz University, Oz's most prestigious academy for future sorcerers. She is forced to room with Glinda, the future good witch of the South. Madame Morrible, the dean of sorcery, notices Elphaba's gifts and seeks to help her achieve her potential in true modern girl boss fashion. Once she learns to control her magic, she'll be granted an audience with the wizard, who will fulfill her heart's desire to stop being green and therefore be accepted and loved. Elphaba joins the pantheon of Mary Sues, one-dimensional wish fulfillment characters onto which female viewers can project themselves, that have become a crutch of modern cinema. Elphaba's only significant character growth, as is often the case with Mary Sues, consists of discovering the power within. She has no real character flaws, and her only perceived defect, the color of her skin, is, in the end, not something to be changed, but a gift to be embraced. The wizard, when Elphaba finally meets him, is predictably revealed to be a fraud. He and Madame Morrible decide to scapegoat Elphaba, who refuses to partake in the wizard's totalitarian ambition, which includes controlling Oz's animal and rendering them mute. She is declared wicked, a common enemy that serves to unite the people of Oz and distract them from the real threat, the power-hungry patriarch. Wicked grants the audience, if nothing else, a valuable warning against the easy path of guardian scapegoatism, in which social cohesion is built through the identification of an enemy unto whom the society's burdens can be transferred. There is a risk, however, in removing innately evil villains from film, one of the main fountains of the contemporary collective imagination. The risk is that we can forget true heroism in the process. Some cheer the rise of villain origin story, arguing that it represents a growing audience maturity in which characters are allowed to function like actual people with moral complexity. In the real world, they claim, Manichaeism rarely applies. Our choices are never as black and white as they are in fiction. In this view, villains like the Wicked Witch or Maleficent require an origin story or a redemption arc, a path forward perfectibly taken or avoided that exposes the audience to moral grayness. The clear image of evil presents in the best fairy tales, ballads, myths, and legends offer both a vision of what is to be avoided at all cost, as well as a vision of virtue. Let me pause there for a second, because I think it's worse than that. I think it's a subtle nudge towards evil. Just like in the conversation between Eve and the great Nahash, the serpent, or as Revelation 12 said, the seven-headed dragon, the ancient serpent. Did God truly say that you may not eat of any of the trees? Wait, hold on. That's a subtle change. It's just a subtle lie. It's a nudge towards the evil. Isn't that interesting? We see musicals being used in powerful ways, something I talked about last week with the Catholic rapper Enoch. Music is a powerful medium to capture people's attention, their minds, their hearts, and even push them towards an agenda. And this musical, as well as many others, The Greatest Showman, anyone? Fiddler on the Roof, pushing people, nudging people towards the wicked, pun intended. It goes on. As such, the sympathetic villain genre is a symptom of a society that disagrees on what is good and what is evil, or that tries to explain evil away as trauma, psychopathy, or pathology. But to identify and avoid evil, we must first learn to recognize the good. The instance on subverting villains is a sign we have lost confidence in our belief that we can know what heroism looks like, a heroism that displays the good that would oppose their unrighteousness. In a world without any moral certitude or any agreed upon system to define that true virtue, what is wickedness anyhow? It would be just a matter of perspective. Let that sink in. Graying these moral virtues, graying wickedness from goodness, graying truth from error, the good guys from the bad guys in our entertainment, will gray that in the minds of young people, of little ones who are subjected to this propaganda piece. They will grow up in a world where they can't tell the difference, and therefore there is no difference, and therefore everybody is just okay. They're just trying real hard, Joe, you know. Golly gee whiz, it's the grayness of the area. It goes on, a recent subversion of the genre can be seen in the brilliant recent Max miniseries, The Penguin. The show flirts with the idea that classic Batman villain might deserve our sympathy. But in the end, the Penguin reveals himself to have no redeeming qualities. In a harrowing flashback, we witness him killing his two brothers when they were children. The remorse we expect never comes. The audience is made to feel disgusted for having ever sympathized with him in the first place. This is also interesting considering I've gone through the terminal list on Prime. I used VidAngel filters because of the graphic nature of it all to filter it out to make it more tolerable, but it kind of is the reverse of this. It's a good guy character that we sympathize with after he goes on a killing spree to revenge his dead wife, his dead child, and his dead teammates in his SEAL team. We sympathize with him because he's the good guy who was treated badly. And his wife and kids didn't deserve to die. His teammates didn't deserve to die. And the bad people in the film, they definitely deserve to die. So we sympathize with this darkness. And yet it's the words of the Lord that remind me that vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. What is it to be a saint but to forgive, as Jesus says in Matthew's gospel? He tells us if we are to be like God, then we must forgive even our enemies. What credit is it to you if you cannot forgive your enemy? And we live in a world where the good guys are the bad and the bad guys are the good, and wrong is right and right is wrong. And we tolerate it, and we tolerate it, and we tolerate it. The article concludes, evil calls upon heroism to confront it. In the final shot of the show, we see that bat signals shine across the Gotham sky. The Penguin's malice evokes Batman's righteousness, just as the wickedness of the Witch of the West evokes Dorothy's good-heartedness and bravery. True evil deserves its place on the screen. Confidence, when displaying it in our stories, is essential to never losing sight of the good we strive toward in our fight against it. And that's the article, Make Villains Wicked Again, from firstthings.com. I'll put a link to it in the show notes for you. But we have a choice in this world. We're living in times where confusion will reign supreme, where we will be manipulated on all sides. And our friends, our family members, our coworkers, our grown children who have walked away from Holy Mother Church will buy this wicked, wicked, subtle lie. What can we do about that? Well, we can live in a state of grace, pursue virtue, and be bold and courageous for the glory of God and for the salvation of souls, because soon we will be dead. And wouldn't it be great to live a moment as an eagle rather than a lifetime as a turtle? You know what else we can do? We could fan the flame of goodness in the world. Coming up after the break, I have a good news story for you. Mass of the Ages has got some great stories to share at an epic level that will capture hearts and minds. It's something that you can do right now to help. We're going to talk about that coming up after the break. Share us with a friend. More is coming. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Come to the St. Thomas More House of Prayer and discover the prayer that will change your life. The St. Thomas More House of Prayer is a Catholic retreat center dedicated to praying and promoting the Liturgy of the Hours, the prayer of the Church. The Liturgy of the Hours is prayed each day, starting with the Office of Readings at 5:30 a.m. and ending with night prayer at 8 o'clock p.m. So whether you're an individual or a group, schedule your visit today. Go to liturgyofthehours.org or call 814-676-1910. That's 814-676-1910. We would love to help you experience the Liturgy of the Hours and discover the prayer that will change your life.
Here at the Station of the Cross, we proudly bring the truths of the Catholic faith to countless listeners through radio and mobile devices, and we're grateful for the feedback we've received.
I'm a widower, parent of 3 almost adults, and listen to you guys around the clock. Father McTigg, Society of Jesus, he's wonderful. Mother Miriam, of course, the Divine Office, and many other great things that Station of the Cross does. So thanks very much for your great work.
I had a friend at work email me and tell me about the Station of the Cross a couple months after it started, and I was so excited. I tuned into it, and I found that I love the Catholic station.
If you've been blessed by listening to the Station of the Cross, let us know. Call 1-877-888-6279, extension 112. Then share your testimonial with us.
Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McClain, and here are your headline news. Epic Times reports suspect in Wisconsin school shooting identified. Madison Police Chief Sean Barnes identified the shooter as 15-year-old female student Natalie Ruppnow. She went by the name of Samantha at the school. Barnes added that Ruppnow died en route to the hospital from a suspected self-inflicted gunshot wound after she attempted to kill herself. She was found among those injured by the police and first responders. A teacher and a teenage student were killed, and then 6 others were also wounded and taken to St. Mary's Hospital. Let's keep them in our prayers today. Just the News report alleges U.S. Education Department unfairly targets Christian schools. A new APP report revealed that nearly 70% of penalties imposed by the Office of Enforcement have been against Christian institutions and career colleges, even though these schools represent less than 10% of college students. According to the report, the Office of Enforcement's 3 main tactics are the strategy for dismantling its targets, imposing penalties, scrutinizing fine investigations, and cutting off Title IV funding. These fines total more than all other penalties assessed by the Department of Education over the past 7 years. How about we just get rid of the department? Just asking for a friend. Anyway, Ground News reports Trump on New Jersey drones, says Biden admin wants to keep us in suspense. President-elect Donald Trump stated that President Joe Biden and the military leaders know more about the mysterious drones spotted in New Jersey and New York than they are willing to reveal. Trump claimed that the military is keeping details secret about the unexplained drones flying over the eastern seaboard. At a press conference, Trump expressed disbelief that the drones could be from an enemy, suggesting that the military would respond if they were. I put out a video just yesterday on this. Check it out on my YouTube channel. Those are your headline news. Hey, praise be to God in all things. There is a fantastic project called Mass of the Ages. Let me get my camera straight here. Mass of the Ages, latinmass.com. 3-part series on the extraordinary form of the Holy Mass, the Latin Rite, traditional Latin Rite. That has been a wonderful series, something we've talked about before. But they've got new projects brewing. Some very exciting stuff I'm going to be linking to today, including their YouTube channel, but also latinmass.com. Joining us right now is their CEO, Tony Schreiner. Good morning, Tony. Thank you for your time. Mike, our producer, can we get Tony on? All right, Tony, good morning again. Thanks for your time.
Morning. How's the audio there?
Praise be to God. We're glad to have you. Thank you for joining us today. All right, so it seems like Mass of the Ages has come up with some very interesting projects. You did a live video announcement on your YouTube channel. You've got a couple of teaser trailers we're linking to in the show notes today as well. So what, I mean, is it a threefer? Like what's on the agenda right now for Mass of the Ages?
Yeah, lots of great stuff. And thanks for having me back on. A lot has changed in the last 6-7 months. So we had a live stream on Giving Tuesday where we told our fans and supporters, this is what's going on. This is what we're going to do. And I guess we just like doing things in threes because of the Trinity. So we announced that we're going to do 3 big projects that we're working on over the next 3 years and beyond. I'll try to go into detail about all of those. Discover Tradition is a Catholic travel show. It's exciting. It's awesome. The whole family can watch it. It's unlike anything that's ever been done before. Touching God is a documentary. So we're going to go back and do another documentary. We're going to talk about reverence for the Eucharist. Okay. And then finally, God Bread. God Bread is going to be phenomenal because we're going to take this to the theaters all across the country. And it is an anthology. So it's an 8-part, so 8 short films. And we're going to cut it in half and we're going to put 4 of those short films together, take it to theaters. And then we're going to put the final 4 short films together and then take that to theaters as well in 2 different pieces. Wow. So we're super excited about that. And God Bread is going to be epic stories about Eucharistic saints. Yep.
That's amazing. Praise be to God. Let's start with the first one, Discover Tradition. So this is it a travel vlog? Like where will we find this content once it's produced?
Great question. We're really still trying to figure out, Joe, what are we doing on distribution? Because, well, YouTube is free. As a policy, essentially, we've decided not to monetize. So we don't get any revenue from being on YouTube. YouTube is just a way that we want to get our media content out there. So what will most likely happen is we'll have Discover Tradition on YouTube, and we're looking at other possibilities. We're even talking to some very common name streaming services about possibly putting it on those types of platforms. But what's happening in Discover Tradition is we're going where the church has been. We're going where the saints have been. It's about lifting up the lives of the saints, lifting up the rich traditions of the Catholic faith. And I mean, just listening to what you were talking about in your last segment and how that need is in the world for fanning the flame of the Catholic faith. This is precisely what our next 3 projects are going to do, specifically Discover Tradition, because the flame exists. For some people, the flame is really strong. And for others, hey, they might just have been baptized and they've never stepped foot in a Catholic church since that baptism, but they still have that identity. So we're trying to reach out to any Catholic anywhere. It doesn't matter if they've ever been to the old rite. It doesn't matter if they even know what that is. Discover Tradition is about, here is your story as a Catholic. And we have already shot 2 episodes and they were just lights out phenomenal. And if we have time, we can talk more in detail about that. But it's not a vlog. It's us going out there. It's hosted and produced by the director of photography for our trilogy. Tom Shannon is the host and producer.
Oh, wow.
And I was blessed to be able to go with him in our first 2 episodes. We went to Malta and we went to Naples, Italy. And it's going to go on forever. Like, I think we're going to try to lock Tom into a 90-year contract because we'll have thousands of stories to tell. So I'm hoping that, he can live to 120, 130, whatever it takes. Yep.
Yeah. Family schmamly. He doesn't need to see his family go. Just get on the road. Pack your bag right now. What are you doing standing around here? I don't mean to make any comparisons. I'm not intending to compare. But when you were talking about this, my immediate thought came to when Bishop Barron, then Father Robert Barron, came out with his Catholicism documentary series. It had that travel feel to it, and it was meant to be very inspirational. Was that a factor at all in how you were deciding on this particular project?
I think it has to be, and that's what we are as a team trying to look. I love Bishop Barron, and I hope that Word on Fire can do what they need to do. I remember watching that. I remember buying the Blu-ray and being blown away by Catholicism. I mean, we watched it as a family back to back to back as soon as I remember it coming out on PBS, right? So yes, that plays a role, and nothing against him or that series, but we want to go beyond that. We want to take it to the next level. We want to show any Catholic that this is your faith. This is your root and where you come from. And I think that's what's going to be exciting is we can literally go anywhere in the world, show these beautiful and wonderful stories of the saints, these festivals, the rich traditions of our faith. Yeah. But also we're showing kind of wow, what did Christianity, what did the Catholic faith replace? It replaced these pagan things. Right. And here's where we are at now. And we're also finding some pretty crazy and wild customs and traditions that are being done. And that's what's exciting about episodes 1 and 2 that we've already filmed and now are in post-production. So it's absolutely...
It's exciting. Can I put in my recommendation? Can I put in the one episode that I want to see more than anything is Barcelona, Madrid, Passion Week, the pageants, the parades. Like if you need a key grip, you need the water boy. I'm your guy. I volunteer. I want to go because that would be epic.
Pack your bags. Let's do it.
Let's do it. That'd be amazing. All right, so let's talk about the second project. So what's your second project then?
Okay, so we talked about second project. Let's go to God Bread. Let's go to God Bread.
I was going to say that for last, but okay.
It's okay. We can...
let's go to God Bread.
Let's go to God Bread. So God Bread is an anthology, right? So for those who are familiar with Mass of the Ages, what I've done now as CEO starting in June 1st is I locked Cameron in a cave so that he could be creative because I need him to be creative and to do his thing.
Chain him to the desk.
And he's a genius. So he's been working on this for quite a while. And it's the thing that we haven't done that we need to do because our team is so talented. It's the narrative, right? We're telling narrative stories. So we're talking actors, actresses, and sets. And we filmed that trailer, which is on our YouTube channel. Highly recommend anybody to watch that trailer. So we haven't yet determined the 8, and I think we're pretty darn close. But we're picking these 8 Eucharistic saints, and we're going to tell their story. Tell their story as to why it was so important for them to follow Jesus Christ, Eucharistic King, and how that is going to transform us. And the narrative story is so important. Obviously, we love documentaries, and we've done those, and we're great at those. But the narrative story is so important because it tells the story of somebody that lived on this earth that we can relate to. And that's why it's so important to fan that flame in that way, right? Because we want to show the world, look, you are living in this world. This individual lived in this world, and look what they did. You can do the same thing too. So God Bread's going to be great because we're going to be focusing on these 8 Eucharistic saints and telling their story. For example, one of the stories, as you can tell in the trailer, is the story of Saint Kateri, right? And her story is way beyond anything that I knew from just understanding her superficially. We're telling her story as, hey, she was baptized on a pagan reservation and she had horrible eyesight. And she walked over 200 miles to go to a church to receive First Communion because she was so drawn to the Eucharist. And we're going to tell that. It's going to be an adventure story, and it's going to be phenomenal. And that's just one of the 8 amazing stories that we're going to tell. Yep.
Yeah, I was just there on my, I did a trip, big, huge road trip back in September. We stopped by the, the Mohawk Valley there at the Shrine of North American Martyrs, the very village where she was born. And it's an incredible, my daughter has a devotion to her. So that's going to be an incredible story that I think will be very inspiring. But what I am really giddy about when listening to Cameron talk about that particular project on the YouTube video is the idea is to take this you want people to be fooled into thinking that Hollywood produced these films. You want everybody to think that that this was a massive budget. It's going to be a big budget, but like Hollywood routinely $20 million to produce a picture these days. Right. So punching way above your belt. And what that does, it's perceived value, which is going to speak to non-Catholics, to non-Christians, to secular people who see this. They'll be bitten by the bug of beauty if you can get it at that level and distributed through theaters, so that, or these other platforms where, it's not the choir that's going to see it, right?
Right. Well, we want the choir to show up. Like I said, we want to take this to theaters. Sure. We want to red carpet this thing. We want to, our goal is we want to be in 500 theaters across the country. But you're exactly right. And as a part of fanning that flame to Catholics, we want anybody to see these things and say, wow, I didn't know that this individual went through this. And the quality is going to be there. We keep getting better. Our team keeps getting better. So I'm really excited to see where we're taking this in 2025 and beyond.
Hold that thought right there. Tony Schreiner is the CEO of Mass of the Ages. LatinMass.com is their website, LatinMass.com. We're also going to link to their YouTube channel for you as well, Mass of the Ages, so that you can check out the trailers and you can even watch the live feed that they did. I guess it was about 3 weeks ago or so, where they announced all of these projects. But coming up after the break, Tony's going to share that third project with us. But man, I'm excited about these short films, these movies about the lives of the saints, told beautifully at a high production value. That's going to have an impact, a deep impact on so many people's lives. Praise be to God. We are talking about fanning the flame of goodness in a wicked world, and more is coming up after the break. Don't go anywhere. Be right back.
Hello, this is Steve Gleason with your 1-minute tool for Catholic evangelism. Here's the question for your non-Catholic friend. Have you ever replaced pronouns in the Bible such as who, whom, whosoever, ye, you, etc., and replaced those words with your name, and therefore you personalize the Bible to yourself? Do you do that? Is that a safe way to read the Bible? Well, here's your 3 best friendship tools for Catholic evangelism. Number 1, Bible complexity. Mechanics study motors, architects study design, linguists study syntax, but for the most part, Christians don't study the how-tos of safe biblical interpretation called hermeneutics. Secondly, Aquinas. In the Summa, we see the caution. Aquinas says of the Bible, quote, the manner of its speech transcends every science because in one and the same sentence, while it describes a fact, it reveals a mystery. And thirdly, a tough comeback. I know it seems plausible to simply say the Bible is a love letter straight from God to humanity, but wait a minute, a sentence or a paragraph in a love letter has context. Yes, with great caution, we can personalize some context, but remember, when you're at the central figure in the Bible, God isn't, and that's just wrong.
Can we be happy without God? Atheists say yes, we Christians say yes, but only to a certain extent. What's our reason? There are some natural human desires that can be satisfied without living for God. The desire for sensory pleasure, success, and loving relationships. There are certain desires, however, that can't be satisfied without God. For example, we don't just desire some love, we desire infinite love, love without limit. This is manifest when we get frustrated with imperfect manifestations of it. The same is true for knowledge, justice, and beauty. Since God alone is infinite in these perfections, only He can satisfy our desires for them. Therefore, to borrow from St. Augustine, without God, our hearts would be forever restless. And my friends, a restless heart is an unhappy heart. I'm Carlo Broussard with a ready reason for Catholic Answers, Catholic.com.
Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McClain. It's great to be on with you. Praise be to God. We're having a conversation with the CEO of Mass of the Ages, Tony Schreiner. LatinMass.com is their website. I encourage you to check it out. We're also looking at their YouTube channel as well. They've got brand new projects. We all know them from the 3-part series on the traditional Latin Mass. Part number 2 was my favorite. It's kind of like Empire Strikes Back. I think it will live in infamy as the best of all 3. Just my personal opinion. But nonetheless, they have got 3 new projects out that they are talking about today. And I'm excited about this too. Tony, good morning to you. Thanks again for being on the team. Praise be to God. All right. So we've talked about Discover Tradition, which is exciting. And then, of course, God Bread, which I think is even more, honestly, I think it's even more exciting than the other 2, but you left the third one mysteriously. The second one is now the third one. What? How good is this last one? What are you doing? What's this last project?
Right, so last project that we announced to our fans and supporters in the live stream is Touching God, right? So we're known for documentaries. We're great at documentaries. So what happened recently? I guess it was this summer. I mean, I filled it out. It was this huge survey, and some were saying that this was the largest survey ever done in the Catholic Church, and it was about reverence for the Eucharist, how the faithful want reverence for the Eucharist. They want to receive Jesus Christ, Eucharistic King, on their knees, on their tongue, right? And that's the focus of Touching God. Right? Is that if we don't have that reverence for Jesus Christ, Eucharistic King, then we're losing sight of what it is that we're receiving. We're losing focus on what it is that we're receiving and what it's doing to us and what it needs to do to us. It needs to transform us. And I think about it when I talk to my children about why we're doing this project, and especially, what do we do when we think about Jesus, our Eucharistic King, is the Knights of the Round Table, anything medieval, right? They go to a king. What do these knights do? They bow down in absolute reverence before their king, and they bow their heads. They are completely overwhelmed by the king. And that's a human king. In some cases, it's a fictional king, right? So here we have the King of Kings, and we need to be bowing down before him, receiving him with absolute reverence. This isn't going to be we want to lord this over you and tell you how you should be doing things. This is a natural way of telling the story of how we all need to understand the importance of all of us. None of us are doing it perfectly, is having reverence for Jesus Christ in the Eucharist. Yeah.
Yeah. We stand for judges when the judge walks into the courtroom. When the President of the United States gives the State of the Union, all rise. Everyone gets. So it's part of our culture to respect people in authority and dignitaries. If King Charles were to come by, you wouldn't just sit down and go, hey, Charlie, how you doing? You wouldn't do that, even if you don't like the guy. It's not something that comes natural to us. And yet, when it comes to the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, somehow we've trained ourselves to be so commonplace, so casual. It's just me and my buddy Jesus. Well, Jesus is my buddy, but he's also my Lord and my God and my Creator and the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. And nothing unclean shall enter into it, Revelation 21:27 says. So it seems like we have lost the plot now for the past 6 decades. And it sounds like your project is trying to help restore that. There's a headline out right now in Chicago. Cardinal Supich is wanting to make communion in the hand and standing the norm. And that's been something we talked about on the show. There's been a lot of shaming of Catholics who want to receive kneeling and on the tongue. So how do we convince Catholics? How do we inspire Catholics who never will darken the door of a traditional Latin Mass, who have never received communion, kneeling and on the tongue? How do we inspire them to greater reverence, greater fidelity, greater desire for the heart to want more and not less of this sacredness of what God has offered to us in tradition?
Yeah, that's a great question. And our hope is that with beautiful media, right? I mean, it's all over. There's media all over the place, and we want to make it beautiful. So we want to take everything that we do, most especially touching God. Make it beautiful, make it unitive, right? We're not pointing fingers and saying, well, if you do it this way, if you don't genuflect with a proper 90-degree angle with your legs, it's nothing like that. But
I didn't know about that rule. Darn.
It may exist. I don't know, right?
Oh, shucks.
Right. But it's something that's deep within us. I mean, God is within us and we can turn to him. He's embedded in us. And so we have to, with the use of beauty and the use of media, take that which we see and hear and then be introspective and say, okay, what does that mean to me? What is Jesus Christ saying to me right now? And that's the hope with anything that we do, most especially with touching God, is to say, here is why it's important that we treat Jesus Christ, King of Kings, Lord of Lords, Alpha and Omega, Prince of Peace, right? I mean, we say all these things around Christmas time when we hear these beautiful songs, the Messiah, all these things that happen around Christmas time. But we need to be saying these things in our heads every single time we approach the table. And we can't just nonchalantly go to our King, right? We have to understand that. What's the problem in today's world? We talk about all these problems that exist, and we have to, right? We have to talk about these problems. There's multiple problems. A lack of reverence, a lack of respecting authority, right? And the ultimate authority, God, who has sovereign rights over us. What is the solution then? In our opinion, solution is tradition, pointing out, look at what we've done for the past 2,000 years. All right. Yeah. And even going back and look at what the early church did for those first 3 to 4 centuries where they were persecuted tremendously. What must we do then in order to get closer to God individually as people, but collectively as the church, right?
Oh, well, okay. Before we run out of time here, it must take a big budget to do 3 projects of this nature, of this magnitude. There's a lot of production value. That's never inexpensive. There's a lot of travel that's required. That's never inexpensive. What's your budget looking like?
Well, the budget right now is about $6 trillion. We're trying to trim it back, but we.
Wow, you must work for the government. That's amazing.
We will. We gladly accept anyone to help us. But in all seriousness, this is an endeavor that we our quality is getting better. The team is getting better, and it literally is going to take millions of dollars to be able to pull this off. And if you go to our website, and we're going to be working on reaching out to all Catholics, not just traditional Catholics, right? But we want to reach out to all Catholics to help us fund these projects, because they will help us all get closer to God, get closer to our Eucharistic King, the Word made flesh. So the budget is much bigger than what it was with the trilogy. As it should be, because we are doing things that we've never done before, these narrative films going across the world, but we're also doing them at a fraction of what Hollywood would charge for these things. And the quality, in our opinion, is on par with what they're doing. So yes, we're trying to raise as much money as we possibly can. Please help us out with this, and know that we recognize the problem. We believe the solution is lifting up tradition, highlighting it, preserving it, restoring tradition. And the impact that you make as a donor is huge, because we've already reached over 11 million views worldwide with our videos, and we're going to 10x, 100x that with these 3 projects.
Praise be to God. LatinMass.com is the website if you want to get more information or help out. It's something you can do. Maybe you don't have a camera or a big crew and can travel the world, but maybe you can support those that do, that are doing something beautiful, some goodness in a world that is wicked. Mass of the Ages is trying to accomplish that. You could be on their team. LatinMass.com is the website. Tony, thanks for your time today. Really appreciate you being on the team and giving us the updates. And I'll be praying for the success of all 3 of these projects. God bless you, Tony. Coming up tomorrow, if I don't get further sick, if I don't get sicker than I am now, Dr. Dan Schneider will be on the team. We'll see you in the after show. God love you.
So what did you think of today's show?
Let's discuss that right now in the after show. Your take on the after take. Comment, interact live with me and the team. All you need to do is search for one of our live video feeds on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, LinkedIn, and elsewhere. Simply search for the Station of the Cross, Joe McClain, or A Catholic Take. I'm looking forward to seeing you and interacting with you directly. It all starts right now. It's the after show.
And we're on the after show.
What a roller coaster today has already been. I got woken up at like 2:20 in the morning. Power went out. Somebody hit a telephone pole, knocked out the power to my neighborhood. I don't know their status. Hopefully they're okay. I don't actually know. Pray for them. Then I sat up for an hour just thinking about, okay, no power. How am I going to pull off a radio show all while also getting sick? So good times. And by the grace of God, by the time I finally got out of bed and started to make the coffee, the power came back on. So at least one of our problems was solved. Mike Patino is in the house. He's hanging out with us today. Mike, good morning to you.
Good morning, Joe. Hopefully I wasn't your other problem.
Well, I didn't want to say it out loud. I'm glad you said. I'm teasing. I'm only teasing. Hey, if it were easy, everybody'd do it, right? Like, it's hard. It's not like this is an appreciation
fun, though,
day
Joe.
for Jake.
It's a lot of fun.
This is what Jake has to go through every day. Cameras and guests and just lower third graphics and have all these spinning plates. And so it's easy to let a couple of plates drop and break. It just is what it is. But Mike, glad you're on the team. Thanks for pitching and thanks for getting up early today. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Joe.
Hey, any drones in Buffalo, by the way?
I don't think so.
No?
We just have snow. Not right now, but.
You know what else
Those are
you don't
drones.
have in Buffalo? If you don't got drones, you also don't have a winning football team. I'm just saying. But otherwise,
We did just
Buffalo
win.
is a great team. Did you win? Who
I
did you
just,
beat this time?
I don't know. It's some Detroit team, but I think I'm just excited to watch. I don't care about Super Bowls. I just am enjoying the season. I'm enjoying Josh Allen. I'm enjoying just the entertainment of it. Like I'm emotionally not getting connected like I did when I lived through the 4 Super Bowl losses in a row. I am like disconnected.
This shall be remain nameless.
Yeah.
4 Super Bowl losses.
No, I'm really enjoying.
Who was
the
your
season.
Who were the quarterbacks in those days?
Jim Kelly was it. Jim Kelly was it. Thurman Thomas, Andre Reed, and Fred Smirlis. I mean, you got all these guys that just were just legends. They stuck with the team. Not
Legends.
like now, teams move around. Or, and then it was high school. So, and the
So
Sabres.
Buffalo's alive again. Buffalo's excited right now. I mean,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Totally. Like I said, it's art. It's just watching art. Like even if you don't like football, you could use the beauty of it. Like it's just they're very talented and
I can't watch
our team's
NFL.
amazing. No, that's
They're too
fine. I
woke
get it.
for my liking.
I get it. Yeah, it is true. It is
Woke
very true.
Football.
Yeah, it's sadness for that as far as that goes.
It is. Hey, Mateus, good morning to you. Hot debate raging yesterday in the Telegram group as to whether or not Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Dr. Taylor Marshall put out a video basically trying to suggest that it was a Christmas movie. It, of course, is not a Christmas movie. I do respect and appreciate Dr. Taylor Marshall, but he is wrong about Die Hard. It is not a Christmas movie. How do I know? Because Bruce Willis has said so. And he's the canon on that. So there you go. Damon, good morning to you. Ann, good morning to you. Yvonne, Sharon, good morning to you. Praise be to God. Paul, our friend from Buffalo. Mike K, good morning to you. Janice, good morning. T-Storm is in the house. Good morning to you. Where is Jack? Trad Jack Burton or Jake, he's still sick at home. He's still recovering from injuries, really. He's not sick like as in a virus. He had an infection from a laceration over last weekend that caused him to get to run a fever and everything swelling. So he's recovering. Prayerfully, he'll be back soon. But hopefully when he gets back, I'll still be here. Because I'm starting to get sick now that my entire family's been sick over the last week. I knew it would be my turn at some point, but I knew it would also be my turn once I'm supposed to be working. Instead, why not just get sick on the weekend when you can have those 2 days to sort of recover? But no, I always get sick when it's time to go to work, but that's just the way it is. James 16897, good morning to you. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Praise be to God. Mike B, thank you and Joe for hanging in there. We are hanging in there. We appreciate you. Jen Nugent, good morning to you. Grew up watching Sesame Street and Electric Company and Mr. Rogers. How things have changed in the kids' shows. Yeah, they are. Things aren't the same as they used to be. Jane Steves, good morning to you. Says, didn't Flutie play for Buffalo? Was that Doug Flutie?
Yeah, he played for Buffalo. He was shorter. My dad loved him. He had Flutie Flakes. It was like cereal.
Flutie Flakes?
Yeah, he was he's just energetic, and he ran, and I mean, didn't lead us to Super Bowls, but it was a fun era.
Oh boy, I forgot all about Doug Flutie. The father first, then when his mother was going to the hospital, she died too. What? What happened? Did you know his parents died on the same day? Oh, wow, that's terrible. I mean, that's good. It's romantic and terrible all at the same time. Must have been a heavy loss for him. You know, I was catching some clips over the weekend of American Underdog, the Kurt Warner story. Have you ever seen that one, Mike?
No.
You've never seen the Kurt Warner story?
No, not really.
American Underdog?
I hate to say it. I'm just like a Bills fan. Like unless they play the Bills and that's it. I'm just a Bills fan.
It's actually a touching story. He wanted to play in the NFL very badly, and he didn't get his chance until late in life, and he turned out to be a fantastic quarterback. I think he led the Chargers to Super Bowl. Was it Rams? It was Rams, right? It was Rams? I think it was Rams. Led them to Super Bowl victory, but nobody wanted to give him a chance. And, and somebody finally did. It's a very touching story, the American Underdog. Hey, Margaret, good morning to you. Take some vitamin D. My wife's all over it, trust me. She's playing nurse 24/7 right now. Jane, again, good morning. Patty says cedar fever is rampant here in the hill country. Yikes. Mimi, good morning to you. Don Paddock, Junior Barr, our friend from West Texas. Lori, good morning to you. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Honey West 25, good morning. Sci-Fi. Chesty, good morning. I was supposed to have a Bible study tomorrow night, but if I get sicker, I don't know if that's going to happen. I may have to punt on this week's Bible study. As of right now, I plan to still do it. It all depends on how the rest of today and tomorrow go. But you need to be on the email list if you want to be informed that we're going to be canceling or punting or still doing it one way or the other. Kurt Warner was St. Louis, the St. Louis Rams. Thank you. I couldn't remember exactly. Rams were watchable, Jen says. That's funny. Angel Knight, thank you. I hope to feel better soon. Albie, good morning to you. Today, Saint Gennaro's blood broke up in Naples. It is always a big event for the city. I think I saw a post on that earlier this morning. Colleen, haven't been sick in 3 years, no lie. With anything, never vaxxed, never got COVID, but I do have an autoimmune for 10 years. Well, I've not been vaxxed. I mean, I did get vaxxed when I was in the Marine Corps. I mean, they give you every vax possible all at the same time. They would line us up, and there'd be two corpsmen on either side with their Star Trek guns zipping us in the arms all at the same time. And they don't tell you what they're giving you. They're just giving it to you. The one that took its toll, though, was they gave us the flu shot, and they give it to you in your back cheek. So you're stripping down in front of some corpsman, which is embarrassing enough. And then they inject your cheek with a live strain of the virus. Well, what do you think happened? We all got the flu in boot camp. And do you think they gave us some time to rest? Nope. Sorry. We had to take the flu and all of the push-ups and all the abuse all at the same time. Welcome to the Marine Corps. USMC. You signed the mother bleeping contract was what we used to say. Let's see here. Miriam, good morning to you. Angel Knight, good morning again. KSW Benedictine Oblate, good morning. Patricia, good morning to you. Colleen, again, good morning. Mutsan. Edu, Susan, good morning to you. Evelyn, Gregory, good morning. Get sick during week and call in sick, then enjoy weekend. That's the way I roll. Yeah, well, that works for some, not for all. Christine Dion, good morning to you. Vitamins C, D, and A, elderberry syrup, and fermented garlic in honey. Wow, no honey. You can't do honey. If Jake were here, He'd argue with me, but that's just the way it is. If you don't have to show up to the team, you don't get to argue. No honey, sugar, carbs. Honey creates carbs. Carbs equals bad. I gotta reduce some actually. I've been geeking out on nuts. Too many carbs, nuts and cheese. I gotta cut it out. But honey, man, I could. I'm like Pooh Bear. I'm gonna go with a whole bottle. I can't just do a little bit. It's a jar or nothing. That's kind of how I am. So you're scrolling backwards. Janice, thank God for James. Today it's Mike. God bless you. God bless you too, Janice. Jimmy Z, good morning. Good morning. What's this romper room magic clip? What are we doing,
Joe?
Here?
Okay, listen, Joe. You got to play. I can't play it on my end, but like ever since you came on board, what's it been like? Almost 2 years now. We do this thing. Hello, everybody. Can you do the sound on it?
Yeah, hold on.
Glad to hear that. You have a good day today, friends. I did.
This is Joe McClain.
I had a Superman day. You had a Superman
Is that
day?
me?
Now watch. This is what you do. This is what you do, Joe, every day.
I'm glad to hear that. Well, you know what? Wait. You know what time it is? It's time for me to see
This
the
is a
friends
show
at
I
home
watch
in
as
the
a kid,
magic
okay.
mirror. Romper bumper, stomper boo. Tell me, tell me do.
What are we
Magic
doing?
mirror,
Watch.
tell me today, did all my friends have fun at play?
Watch. This is what you do right now.
All my friends had fun today. I see David's having a special day today, and I'm Lindsay Joy had a special day on.
Are you saying I'm simply stealing from the 1984 romper room magic mirror?
That's right, Joe. Yes. No, I'm just
Wow.
saying, like, I hear it, and you bring back childhood memories of romper room where you just like.
Am I triggering
I
you
see
right now?
Joey's out there, and yeah, you're triggering.
Do I need to change into a sweater and change my shoes? Would that help you as well? I mean,
That's
that'd
Mr.
be fun.
Rogers. That's Mr.
It'd be
Rogers.
hilarious if I actually came in and changed jackets to another jacket that looks.
That would
just
be
like
great.
this one.
Yeah.
That'd be hilarious. That'd be so funny. There is a comedian. There's a guy who creates funny, humorous clips on social media. He looks like your standard Portland, Oregon liberal. Like he has that look to him. Like he just looks like he's got 2 dogs and a cat, no children, drinks lattes all day. He wears sweaters, has got a trimmed beard and black rimmed glasses. Looks like just like a straight up liberal from the Northwest Pacific area of the country. And he did this funny video of like how to treat your wife or something. And they're in a car and the camera's on him in the driver's seat. He jumps out. He climbs over the top of the car. So your camera follows him climbing over the top. And now he's on her side of the car. And he opens the door for her. And by then he's got her, I think he's got a rose in his mouth or something. And he's wearing this sweater, this very pretentious, liberal looking sweater. And he tears it off to put it on the ground so she doesn't have to step on ground, steps on his sweater, only to reveal he has the exact same sweater underneath. It's hilarious.
Oh, jeez.
It's so funny. So good. And he does all these reaction videos that are hilarious to people doing crazy things. It's kind of funny actually.
We used to walk into garbage cans when we were younger. Like my first, I'm in video. It's my life. We'd set it up with our VHS handheld, VHS camcorder. And we'd have one of the friends would walk and run walk into garbage cans and see the people's reactions. It was actually, pre-YouTube days. This is what we did. And then for fun. And then we'd go home and edit it on a VHS to VHS editor.
When I was a kid, I went in school, I would do video projects. Only, I would take I had 2 VCR players, and one of them would be the recorder and one would be the player. So I would play clips with one and record it on the other and have to pause. And then you'd have to be Johnny on the spot with the record pause button. You'd have to be so precise because there's no room for error, or else you get a black, black
line
screen. Yeah, and I wanted seamless cuts. So it's I got really good at that. So I would create entire video projects with just 2 VCRs. And we didn't own a camera with, I had to borrow the camera from somebody. I can't remember who I borrowed the camera from. I borrowed the camera from somebody. And man, those were the days. And I remember getting my first digital linear video editor, on a computer, and I just thought, the sky's the limit, man. I just thought, this is crazy. This is there's so much we can do with this. And then I got tasked with with honoring my grandparents on their 50th wedding anniversary.
Pressure there.
And so my entire family mailed me all of their pictures, all their memories, all their clips, and I had to collate all of that. I had to scan every image, mail them all back, and then create this video that they played for them on their 50th wedding anniversary, which took me a ton of hours to accomplish. And, and now here we are years later. I've, created documentary film, feature-length films, short films, thousands of hours of content created, so the love of video creation goes way back into the day. But I definitely don't remember stealing from Romper Room, now that you accused me wrongfully of stealing from the Romper Room magic mirror clip. But Tradish Mom seems to agree with you. She says, I've been seeing that. It's like being seen on Romper Room. That's so funny. And I think it was Colleen was saying that was back when TV was wholesome. I don't certainly there were wholesome things on TV.
They just hit it better.
But not everything was wholesome, even in 1984. I mean, there's lots of things that was pretty racy. There was some racy things on TV, even in 1984. You think about Dallas, Heart to Heart. Heart to Heart. There's a reason why I came on after 9:00 at night, because it wasn't suitable for kids. There were some racy themes of Magnum PI. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some pretty racy themes. Three's Company.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Three's Company, pretty racy.
Right.
So
I watched the shows that, I don't know if Jake actually watched these shows, the A-Team and
I love the A-Team.
Knight Rider and
sure.
Well, Dukes of Hazzard, that's a little could get a little
I had the 45.
Really?
I got the 45 for Christmas one year of their theme song. Just a good old boy.
Yeah.
Never meaning no harm. Beats all you ever saw. Been in trouble with the law since the day they was born. I had that on a 45. I had that little plastic insert so it would fit on the record player. And I played that thing.
I love how the car, would go off, off a ramp and it'd go in the air, and they'd be like, "Oh, you go to break. I don't know what's going to happen with these boys."
Hey, I don't know. They ain't gonna make it this time.
That's go train.
I was a student at Judge John H. Wood Middle School outside of San Antonio, Texas, and I was in the drama class. I was in drama, and we had a visitor one day. He was the producer of Dukes of Hazzard. And he was revealing all the secrets to us on the back end. And one thing he said broke my heart. There was more than one General Lee car.
Yes. How many hundreds, right?
I was like, what? Don't say that, man.
Every time it went, I mean, they don't land like they do. They break.
They broke
that
every
car
time.
was not built great. For I mean, did you ever try to drive a car from the 70s or what? I don't know. When it got
I'd miss the cars from the 70s. Remember how they would always smell like oil?
Yeah, my car does.
They always smelled like that. They don't smell like that anymore. Like the good old days where you'd hear the power steering motor whine because it was always leaking power steering fluid and you would have to fill it. Like the good old days where you'd be at a traffic light and you'd wonder to yourself, will this car still be running by the time the light turns green? Or will I have to push it through this intersection? Those are the good days. But yeah, the guy told us that there were several versions of the General Lee, and they had at least, I think it was 2, maybe 3 versions that were stripped down, and they were only jump cars. And there was you'd see them sometimes. He said you can see them, you could see the frames breaking on impact. And then they would cut to the good car that would drive away, So he told me all the insider secrets, and it broke my heart because it was it wasn't real. What? Bo and Luke aren't real. I wanted them to be real.
Yeah,
breaking the heart of
me too. Wrestling too. I wanted that to be real.
Oh,
I could have
hold on, wait, time. What'd you just say?
I don't want to break it to you, Joe.
Are you trying to?
See, even to this day,
Carburetors. Alberto says carburetors. Who remembers carburetors? My 78 Buick Skylark. I think I've told you this before, but in order to keep my Buick Skylark running, I took one of those tire air pressure things that you check the tire pressure with, and I jammed it down the carburetor to keep that thing open. It was the only way it would start and run, is if I kept the carburetor wide open. And in the winter, it became very fun because I'd start the engine and flames would shoot out from under the hood. It was like pretty cool. And then I was on spring break with my buddies and the muffler fell off and it sounded like all of a sudden I had like a V12. It was just amazing. I love that car. It was only this far off the ground because, the shocks were all broken and it didn't work and the passenger seat was broken. So that person was always in recliner mode. But man, my friends called that car Chewy. It was lime green except for the front hood and the right fender, which were like a very light brown. I don't know how or why. But Chewy. Yeah. Paid $50 for that car. Great car. My first car was a 76 Mercury Montego, says James16897. He says, I miss old cars. They were the best. What was your first car, Mike?
Subaru. No, actually, no, that's not true.
Subaru?
That's my first. Subaru Forester was my first new car. But,
what?
I had a
Subaru.
My dad had a Mazda Spider, but that was like before I drove. What did I don't know. It was like a no-name car, like blue. It was blue. My brother crashed it, so. And then, I had a lot of, I don't know what they were. Is that horrible? Honda Civic,
yeah,
an
that's
old
pretty
one.
horrible that you don't remember.
No, just the Subaru, because the Subaru was my first new car, 2-year-old car.
Really?
And that's what I drive today.
Subaru. That's for rich folks, man. What are you talking about? Like silver spoon?
All-wheel drive. I live on a hill. I live on a giant hill, which we have our own weather patterns. When the weather guy does weather, they say, in Buffalo, and then they say, in Wales, New York, and at this house,
Yeah, unless you live there.
Yeah, and then we have it's like really a cloud above our house, and it just spews snow on our house.
That's funny. Yeah. That's so funny. Paul says, my 76 Chevy van, inline 6 and 3-speed manual column shift. I missed that vehicle. You could crawl around in the engine compartment. That's great. Moodsan says 74 Camaro, smog year. But I rebuilt the engine at 13 years old. Wow, that's kind of cool. Yvonne says 77 Caprice Classic, 2-door with coupe windows. Had to stop every 10 miles to fill up the oil and check the gas. That's hilarious. Janice says, wonderful show today. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I hope to get well soon. Hopefully I won't get too sick. Nick the Mike says, is Mike implying the 70s and 80s wrestling was not real?
Listen,
no, he's not implying that, Nick.
To this day, I can't.
The Von Erichs are real.
It's real. It's gotta be
real. The Von Erichs were real.
Jimmy Snookerfly,
Yeah, that was all real. All of that was real. It was it's when Dwayne The Rock Johnson comes in that's fake. All the rest is fake, but the Von Erichs were definitely. Andre the Giant, 100% real.
When Hulk Hogan picked up Andre Giant, didn't that happen? Do I remember that? Him picking up?
Yeah. His back was probably never the same
No.
after that. Like, could you imagine? Oh, good grief. Barbara, good morning, says 68 Mustang bucket seats. Well, Barbara's wealthy, obviously. Like that's amazing. I had a high school buddy who had a Camaro. I think it was a 68 Camaro, but it was like a kit car. Like he and his dad built together and he drove it in high school. And I'm thinking how Walter Stokes was his name. Drove a Camaro in high school. I'm like, that's the coolest thing ever. I drove Chewy. He drives a Camaro. That's so cool. There was another kid who drove his dad's Porsche on occasion. I was very jealous about that. The caretaker, says Carl Thomas. The caretaker. Are you saying the caretaker is real or not? That's the question. Jimmy Z says 55 Lincoln Capri. You got 2. That's crazy. That's crazy. Sharon, good morning to you again. Maru, good morning, says they really get hurt, and that's probably all that's real. I got to say this. You think about some of the moves that they do. And the whole pile driver thing. You get that wrong, someone's breaking their neck, could die, could be paralyzed for life. That's a kind of serious situation. So entertainment or not, they're definitely doing things that could result in very serious injuries.
Well, they're professional athletes too. I mean, they are professional athletes. They're at the top of their game. They're not up there.
To be.
I mean, they have to. The moves, like you said, the moves they do, they can get severely injured. I mean, they're you're jumping off. Yes, there's some trampolines in the say a little, but that's not going to save you. You fall, you land them wrong. Right. I mean, these guys get cut up. I used to do some wrestling events, and they'd have blood, and it was real. Some stuff was real. All of it was real. Sorry.
All of it was real. Let's not trigger the audience today, Mike. It's not, the Spider-Man in wrestling, was that real? Says Carl Thomas. Probably real. Probably real. Tradish Mom says, boys watch wrestling for the matches. I watched for the drama with Miss Elizabeth. Oh my. Yes. I was telling Jake, there was an old school wrestler, maybe not too old school, maybe like 90s, early 2000s era wrestler. I forget his name now. I just saw a clip of him the other day, and I can't remember his name. But he was saying that he actually left, I think it was the WWE, because they kept wanting him to wrestle women, China in particular. And he was like, not China the country, but China the wrestler. And he was like, I'm not wrestling a female. They're like, why not? He goes, I have kids. You want my kids to see me beating up on a female? I'm not doing that. Forget it. I'm not doing that. I mean, like, I thought that was pretty based, as the kids say. That's pretty good. Pretty Chad. James says, I've set up that ring for the WCW and WWE. It isn't soft and springy like you would think. James, you have built these rings? Like you have that, you put these things up? That's kind of cool. That's neat. Was it like you did this for the WCW and WWE? Like at that level? That's kind of cool. That's kind of great. How big are those rings? They look massive to me. Carl says, remember the bald twins that came marching into the arena? What were their names? I don't remember. No idea. Alberto says, get a Porsche. I would love a Porsche. That's been my dream car. The Porsche 911 has been my dream car since I was a little kid. I would have pictures of the Porsche in my room, posters of the Porsche, mostly because I had lived in Germany and I got to see these things all the time on the Autobahn, zipping around. And I always thought that they were elegant and beautiful cars. So I've always wanted one. In fact, in 1997, when I sold my car and moved to New England, got a one-way train ticket to Boston, stepped off the train April 1st, 1997, in a snowstorm. And I thought to myself, what is wrong with you people? It is April. It's already summertime. And you're got snow on the ground. Okay? And so I thought that should have been a red flag. But anyway, I got a job working third shift at Walmart, stacking shelves, unloading trucks. While I was pursuing my radio career during the day, I got a gig at WNHQ 92.1 and eventually WHOB 106.3. And at nighttime, I was stacking shelves. And across the street from the Walmart in, I think it was Milford, New Hampshire. I want to say it was Milford. Was a used car dealer, and he had a canary yellow Porsche. And I went to go look at it. And he's like, do you want to drive it? And I was so tempted. I'm like, no. He goes, why not? It's because I can't actually afford it. I'm not going to drive something I can't afford. But I looked at it, and one of the things, and he was like, oh, we can work it out. You got a job. We can figure this out. We can get payments. Don't worry about it. We get financing. It's all good. And he was really trying to talk me into it. But I looked at the tires. The tires looked dry rotted. I'm sure all the hoses were dry rotted. I mean, how did this Porsche end up on his used car lot, right? And there's like a no lemon law. There's like in New Hampshire, like they can sell you lemons. So you got to be careful. And yeah, we're just going to go another 5 minutes. And this guy wanted to talk me into it. And I thought to myself, even if I could afford the payments, I could never afford to keep this thing on the road. So that was the closest I had ever gotten to owning one. I did get to ride in a Porsche 911 when I was in Hawaii, when I was in the Marine Corps. I went to scuba diving school, and there was a lieutenant in the class with me, and he owned a convertible 911, and he would give me rides. That was
That'd have been
cool.
awesome.
That was. It was a black. It was so beautiful. What was that movie? Oh, there was a movie
Doctor
from
Who.
the 80s. Not
Star Trek.
Doctor Who. Not Star Trek. I want to say it was like the American superhero movie or something. There was like a scene where all the bad guys are driving blacked out 911s with like the extended haunches in the back, and they looked all really awesome and amazing. Like his
Cannonball
Porsche
Run.
looked like that.
No, I don't know. I don't know.
Cannonball Run. The Porsche 920 went cheap. Yeah, there's a reason for that too. The Boxsters go cheap. Now the Boxsters The Boxsters are a great deal, actually. You get all the fun with not all the price tag on a Boxster. If you can get a great Boxster, a used Boxster, you can get it for a very affordable price, and you can have a great time in a Boxster. Of course, you know, it's hard for me to convince my wife that that's a family car. I mean, I can get one car seat in it. So technically, I think it does qualify. But my wife isn't quite sold on that one just yet. So who knows? We'll see. Deborah says, have a great day. God bless y'all. Hope you feel better. I hope so too. Tom Cruise sliding into the living room. Oh, yeah, the old 920. I think those are picking up in interest these days. They used to be cheap. I'm not sure that they are anymore. Albie says, Ferrari, bros. Ferrari. That's the Magnum PI kind of a thing. I like Ferrari, but it's the money. It's also just like the maintenance of those things. Crazy. Lamborghini Countach. The Countach, iconic shape, terrible aerodynamics in actuality, and terrible, like, there's no room. You've got to be a short Italian with skinny feet to be able to fit into that thing. There's no way I would ever fit into a Countach. It never happened. It never happened. Cannonball Run. It's a real thing, you know, Cannonball Run. It's not just a movie. Sci-Fi says, I love the clip caption. The next time someone says wrestling is fake, show them this. And RoboCop walks out. Maserati, better everyday car. Is it really the Maserati? Maserati. They're okay. They're all right. They're not, I mean, it's not exciting though, Maserati. It's just not exciting. Edu is also, you've triggered Edu now. He says wrestling is fake? Question mark, question mark, question mark. The DeLorean. The DeLorean is exciting. It weighs 78,000 pounds because it's all made of steel and is underpowered with an underpowered motor, just like the Humvee was. But people are swapping those out with LSs, and they're pretty cool. There's been some pretty amazing mods on the DeLorean, and the DeLorean company still exists. It's just down the road from me near the Bush International Airport. And you can buy a brand new DeLorean still today. Did you know that? Even though the parts were manufactured 30 years ago. Well, I don't know how we devolved into cars, but somehow we managed to do so. Hopefully today you're going to have a great day. Praise be to God. I ask you for prayers for my health, for Jake's health, for Mike's sanity. That'd be amazing. We'll see you guys right back here tomorrow with Dr. Dan Schneider. God bless you. God love you. And until then, share us with a friend. We'd be grateful to you.